You had how many birthdays?
Me? What do you think?
Well, I know that you had one birthday.
Yeah.
You were born
Yeah.
on a certain day.
Absolutely.
You had no more birthdays after that. So I don't celebrate birthdays, so that stops me from counting days, which stops me from counting time, which allows me to still look the same as I did 10 years ago, just like that lady.
Undeniable evidence that our history has been rewritten. And I'm going to show you guys why one of the greatest empires that ever existed, the Tartarian Empire, was wiped out of our history books. Now, Tartaria was a pre-Mongolian empire that started in Asia and was the biggest empire at the time. Tartaria had free energy technology that the world elites knew they could not control. You can actually see many buildings around the world, even in your hometowns, that have this technology. These were built to harvest energy from the ether. This is the same technology that Nikola Tesla rediscovered when he created the Tesla Tower. And before 1850, you'll see many maps that show Tartaria. So the question is, what happened to this incredible empire? Many speculate that there was a reset and a great mud flood caused by the elites and their weather controlling technology. This is ground level. When excavated, you can see that buildings were built on top of old buildings. There is so much evidence of this all over the world. As you can see, this is street level and there's buried windows, so this was built on top of old buildings. Here's another example, and another one. Now recently, Vladimir Putin, the man who is exposing the New World Order, has been talking about the cover-up of Tartaria. The world elites know that if we figure out this technology and utilize it, they will not be able to control us. This is why Tartaria was wiped from the history books, but the truth is always there for you to find. Peace and love.
In San Francisco, they just legalized a law that robots and AI technology can take lethal action against a human being. So say in that robot's eyes, if someone's doing something bad in their eyes, it doesn't even mean it's like morally wrong in the human being eye. You just take them out.
Let's talk about what's actually happening during a total solar eclipse. And no, it's not what you think. First of all, the powers that be would want you to think that you're on a spinning water ball in an infinite space vacuum, and a total solar eclipse is when the sun is shining on the other side of some dusty rock that we call the moon. So when you look up these images of total solar eclipses, they feed you images that serve that heliocentric lie. Images that look like this, where it's pitch black because the sun is shining against this dusty rock and there's no light coming from the other side, so it must be pitch black. It's a lie. All these images all look pitch black in the middle, but that's not actually what you see during a total solar eclipse. I mean, look at this BS. It's total CGI. Okay, let's check it out. Here's what it actually looks like. And do you realize how far I had to search down on the Google search to even find real images of a total solar eclipse? But what do you notice? There's one. That's a real picture. Here's another. What are you starting to notice? And here's another. You see it yet? During a total solar eclipse, you can see directly through the sun and the moon. What? Yeah, folks, the sun and the moon are great luminaries set in the firmament by the Almighty God. They are not spheres in outer space, but spiritual discs. The sun is dominant and rules the day. The moon is submissive and governs the night. In the book of Enoch, between chapters 72 to 78, it describes the 6 portals that the sun and the moon are traveling above us in a clockwise fashion. Clockwise because we live under a clock. The moon's cycle exactly matches a female's cycle. The moon is most attractive and most full on the 14th day. A woman is most attractive and most fertile on the 14th day. In these chapters, it describes how the moon is absent of light, becomes full of light, and then becomes absent of light, invisible. The sun is 1/28th faster than the moon, and when it catches up to the moon, it will catch up and it will pass through the moon, and the moon is devoid of light because it's a new moon. When the disk of the sun passes through the empty disk of the moon, there's absence of anything at all. You can see directly through both disks. But this is the crap they'll sell you. That's a lie. And yes, the Earth is a topographical plane. So why does the moon have craters? Lying wonders. are talked about in 2 Thessalonians 2, 9 through 12. Have you ever wondered why the two things in our sky are the same shape, size, and color, essentially? Because they were made to be that way. Praise Jesus. This is it, the apocalypse. Oh, whoa.
Dragons were real, and I'll explain. So around the same time period in, China, South America, Africa, all these different, Rome, all these places, images depicted people fighting dragons, right? And every dragon was slightly different, but it was all a giant, scaly animal that could fly. You think about the fact that large birds had a hard time being fossilized because their bones are so porous, right? So because they have like hollowish bones, they break down very easily and they don't fossilize. So it's like the science is saying that if there were lizards big enough to fly around and eat people, they didn't have bones that could fossilize.
Hundreds of these cement statues of goblins and dragons and monsters exist all over the world. A lot of them are on cathedrals. Why are we displaying these unknown creatures? They're all unique and strange in their own ways. Some are monstrous and hideous. Some are just downright weird. These aren't carvings at all. Some of them look like a combination of multiple animals. These failed results of cloning? The Book of Enoch states that there were 200 fallen angels, titans, and giants roam the earth. These 200 angels made a very strange request. They asked for 200 of a whole bunch of different animals. 200 bears, 200 goats, 200 rabbits, 200 snakes, 200 pigs, 200 birds. It's almost like each of the fallen angels were going to get one of each of these animals. Wouldn't it be crazy if those 200 angels were tasked with creating 200 different versions of possible beings? Maybe those petrified gargoyles and other monsters were the results of those attempts. What if the different races are representations of these different crossbreeding? And some people have different color skin, but some people look downright different. If we are the version of humans that passed their testing? What if we're the Cabbage Patch Kids? The Garbage Pail Kids were petrified into statues. Crazy, huh?
What in tarnations is going on? Can somebody tell me who is that with the Pope? What is that? That can't be human, brother. And it don't just stop there. Who's the guy in the back? Now, I don't want to say that the Pope is rolling with demons, but the Pope's rolling with demons, brother. Something is definitely not right.
This is the truth about aliens and the UFO invasion prophecy from the Bible. First off, there's no such thing as an alien from outer space, but there is such thing as demons. This man right here is named Aleister Crowley. He was a high-level Satanist who performed rituals. And this right here is a sketch of a demon that they channeled through one of their rituals. Aleister quoted, "Today they call them angels and demons, tomorrow they will call them something else." What do they call them today? Aliens. They were named after Aleister because he channeled them. These are nothing more than demons. Now what does the Bible say about this UFO invasion? This is from Zechariah chapter 5, a vision of a flying roll. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. That's about 30 feet. Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and it shall enter into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and it shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. God is saying he will allow these demons to enter into the house of the sinners and destroy them, along with their home. This is what he was talking about when he saw a roll. But a 30-foot long one, he was probably talking about something like this. These demons have had this technology for a long time. That's the truth. Like and follow for more? Y'all go cop a hoodie, they're really comfortable.
What is Elon Musk trying to show us? In the most recent SpaceX rocket launch, you can see this rocket is stuck. Look at it. It's rotating. The front of the rocket is stationary. The back of the rocket is spinning. But what is it spinning in? Is it the ether of the firmament above us? What's the firmament? Read Genesis 1. Why would they lie about space? There's a lot to gain. Let's see what happens when you mess with the firmament. You ready for it? Yeah, don't mess with God's firmament. Outer space is fake. Wake up.
Why were the pyramids built? Many Egyptologists believe that the enormous pyramids were merely tombs where the pharaohs were buried. However, there is a theory that the pyramids actually were created for a different purpose. Many of us know that the pyramids had secret shafts built into the construction, but no one knew what they were for. It was not until Christopher Dunn made a scaled-down model of the Great Pyramids and started pouring water into it. As a result, the pyramid resonated at a frequency capable of emitting electrons. A man who was really fascinated and found a lot of inspiration from the pyramids was Nikola Tesla. When he developed the Tesla Tower, a device capable of harnessing energy through the atmosphere. Is it possible that a more advanced civilization had any type of advanced technology in the pyramids?
NASA admits they don't have any photos of Earth. Do you need me to repeat that? NASA admits they don't have any photos of Earth. And the famous photo, which is called the Blue Marble, was on everyone's iPhone. Great hypnosis right there. Is made in Photoshop. Robert Simmons, the NASA visual artist, I'm sure you've talked about it, says he made it in Photoshop. He hit Command Z a lot. He talked about how he just got data. He's like, oh, there's extra plankton here. I'll make that greener. And this is a desert, so I'll make that browner. And he stepped and repeated the clouds. He was lazy. He used the same clouds again and again. All right? And it's made in Photoshop, period. Right? And the other problem is they can't, then after that, they came out with another photo. Look at the size of America. Look at the size of America. And people go, well, that's focal length, because, we're closer and it's tilted and you can, make the sizes look a little different. But if you actually do something that we can verify, because we're here on Earth, you can take that shot and measure something. Well, here's a straight shot onto Mexico and Baja, and we can drive across Mexico, go across the bay in Baja, and we could scientifically prove that that's 934 miles. NASA tells us that the diameter of the Earth, a line straight through it, no curvature involved, just the diameter, 7,917 miles. Here is 934 miles on this map of theirs. I should be able to fit 8.5 of these in between these two red lines. I can't even get them on this page. That's a problem. You with me?
Yep, their math is off.
Their not math, their painting sucks.
The pictures of the globe. Do you have a slide that shows, because I found one that had about 6 or 8 of them, where it was like 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom from the 1970s.
Yeah, so pick which one you want. They're all paintings. Which one do you like the best? I like the 1997 one on the upper right. That's a nice one.
Here, my son turned me on to this. It's a freaking genius, man. I didn't even see it. Notice this. Looks a lot like this. Okay, well, this is only half the picture. Now, it looks a lot like those hieroglyphs. This is a thermoelectric generator with an open arc, with a cathode and anode, like the Ark of the Covenant. As I've claimed before, I mean, it's around that I believe it's set in this sarcophagus, and it was the plasma, like a spark plug in here. And it used radium inside it, and this is where your arc or your star was. And these are the control rods. These are in hieroglyphs. And you overlay this that's in the hieroglyphs onto that, this is what you get. And coincidentally, Aaron's rods sat inside it. Control rods, nuclear rods. But they use solid-state physics. Now look at this. It looks a lot like that. And if you have a cathode and anode here, which, remember, it was in between the cherubs, you got the star, or the arc. And it essentially sat inside the bill. And the capstone, as I was claimed, it's a distributor for the wireless energy that went to these staves and scepters and such, because they were a wireless device. But it wasn't like a device we used for internet. They used it for powerful purposes, like weaponry kind of stuff. Now here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and each one of these has 3, and there's 18 there. Of course, you have the 13 little lines going down. And just throwing this out here, e pluribus unum, out of many, 1. If this is fusing particles to create one star, out of many, 1, So if there was an arc in the king's chamber, and there was ionized hydrogen coming in, as I've stated in a couple other videos, and it was a red star, essentially all these little particles are creating a fusion reactor. Because a star is basically many explosions in particles that equal one giant mass of energy. So here's two more again, with the Sphinx on top. I understand people believe these are probably some kind of temple, and I'm not disputing that. I believe it had something to do with energy resonance too, or honing in energy. And since the Sphinx sits on this box like this, I'm wanting to lean toward, now people have said and they've claimed they found mercury, and I don't dispute that either, but I'm just going to throw this out here. I believe the Sphinx itself is a type of heat sink that sits on this thermoelectric generator here under it, beneath it. And at some point, there's some heat down here, and this is absorbing the heat. Or this is absorbing the heat from the sun, which is generating energy into the box down here, which is a solid state box. It's like a crystalline transistor box. Basically, it's one of these, a thermoelectric generator, using thermodynamics. See, if this is the Sphinx sitting up here, then it's absorbing heat and transferring it, and it's cold down here. Or the Sphinx itself is the cooling side, and there's heat being generated somewhere down in here. I think that has something to do with the mercury. I'm not sure. I can't conclude that, but I'm just leaning toward it. And just saying, thermoelectric generators are backwards compatible with PC hardware. Since they're solid state or transistor, they got crystalline in them and metals. And that's why it looks like the whole complex, it looks like a motherboard, and it's called a complex. And this even sits on a socket like a CPU. All of the metals have just been pillaged. And that's where the Egyptians got all this gold, because they dug these things up. It took them about 25 years to dig them up, pillage them, and turn all of it into trinkets and stuff like this. The Mayans, they did the same thing to the Teotihuacan pyramids. They found them, excavated them, dug them up, stripped all the gold, and used it for whatever they used it for. They didn't know what the things were, but they knew it had some kind of significance, but all they saw was precious metal. And they were essentially the same thing. They were just stepped. They're just more like Peltier thermoelectric generators. But it's all the same thing.